Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon and welcome back to the Reset Update. Now, getting straight into it, there was a few fixes that were implemented. So, just starting off the top, there was a issue fixed for 3v3 quick play and map pack playlists where heavy ammo was shared. That was unintended. They also fixed an issue on Eventide Labs where you can no longer get into a special unintended place. From Onslaught as well, they fixed the issue where killing the boss too quickly would prevent progression on Vostok and Moth Yards, as well as the portal not spawning on Wave 20 for Midtown. As well, they fixed the issue where some Pyramid Ship boss room switches would occasionally just straight up not activate. As well, for gameplay-wise, Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves was doing more damage than intended, so they reined that back in. It should be performing more normal now. As well as Scavenger mods with Xenophage and Grand Overture receiving more ammo than intended from heavy bricks. From that point, there was, of course, a change with Tusk of the Boar and Multimac as well as Brave Weapons, but those are more progression anyways. From that point, a few things going on. Double Nightfall rewards and rank for Vanguard. Now, what that means, obviously, you get double rewards at the end of Nightfalls, as well as increased rank progression for all of the Nightfall Strike playlists. Now, however, it is the more difficult Nightfall of the season in PsyOps Battlegrounds Cosmodrome, which is one of those ones that has Lucent Hive all over it, which means, of course, GM Lucent Hive, as well as champions, and this one is the one with the escort mission where there's just lots of fallen and open area, and of course the final boss battle that is Savathun aspects, very open room, as well as infinitely spawning ads, not to mention the fact that it is one of the night ones, which will be throwing suppression grenades all the time. Probably one of the harder ones of all time in terms of GMs, and definitely probably the hardest one of this season. From that point, though, if you manage to work through it, you can get a roll on the Slammer Sword, the sword that was brought back to the Crucible, or not the Crucible, the Vanguard playlist new to this season, which does have access to things like Eager Edge, which is unique for a sword outside of 30th Anniversary. Worth grinding double, possibly, if you learn how to go through it, but I don't think it's exactly worth it unless somebody just wants one of the swords to say they have it. From that point as well, for Crucible, there is a last chance in the form of trials this weekend. The Messenger will be rotating out, and this is your last chance to get a adept roll. Now, just the adept, though, however, because obviously it will rotate into the legacy set, where it will still be focusable with engrams, it just won't be adept. And you probably won't have access to it at least for another few seasons. So again, if you want the adept roll of what's available now, I advise going for it, because there's a chance the adept of when it comes back, if it does, might not be something you're exactly looking forward to. From that point as well, for Crucible, we have Sparrow Control as well as Rift and New Territory going for the new backpack playlists. Now, for some of our rotation stuff, the current farming mission is Seraph Shield, which is something you can go for if you want anything from Season 19, which is the Ikelos as well as Rasputin sets from the respective seasons, which lots of top tier weapons that are still relevant even today, being, well, roughly 4 seasons old and outdated. At that point as well, there is Vault of Glass, which means that Master Mode is once again available, as well as it's infinitely farmable if anyone wants to get their hand on Vex Mythoclast, or just that God roll of Time Lost Fatebringer that everyone wants. From that point as well, Shadow Throne is on the list for the farming dungeon, which it's not so terrible for a farm. It's literally the easiest of the dungeons to farm out, not to mention do solo. It's just got nothing exactly worthwhile. Yes, it has refreshed Dreaming City weapons, but it's nothing that's exactly unique, as those weapons can be found in the Blind Well in the Dreaming City, just random rolling. Now for our raid challenge on terms of Crota's End, going backwards through everything, it is Equal Vessels right now, which is the Ear-Utes challenge, which is basically everyone has to hold on to the chalice once around in an order until you finish. But aside from that, for the raid challenge, blasting through it, Root of Nightmare is the All Hands challenge, which I believe is Rullk off the top of my head. King's Fall is Devious Thievery, which I think is War Priest challenge. Vowed Disciple is Swift Destruction, which is first encounter challenge, basically kill the abominations quick. Vault of Glass again is featured, so it is all challenges active, don't have to worry about specifics. Deepstone Crypt is the core 4, which is Tanic challenge, basically just 4-ball strat it, you'll be fine. Garden of Salvation is the Leftovers challenge, and the Last Wish is the Witch challenge. Which, from that point, that's a lot of witches. That is all of the raid challenges and mostly of everything else. Now, from that point, there is, of course, there's Eternity Legend mode, which is Hive, Vex, and Ballista Arc for its rotation. And at that point, that is everything going on that is worth taking note of. Going into the Eververse store for what's available in the Bright Dust. Now, keep in mind, some of this, as we get closer to the end of the season, there is some stuff that is going to be archived and thrown in a weird way. When you look at the main seasonal offerings here, I'm just giving you a quick heads up. Most of the stuff here that is rated for the season, like ignore the N7 bundle, The Witcher, well, actually, no, not The Witcher, because that is relevant, but most of the stuff that came with the season, heads up the way they work. When the season ends, this will all leave rotation. Yes, it can still appear for Bright Dust at random intervals, but it won't be available in the archive for just straight up purchases until a week later. With that, I'd recommend that anyone that wants what they need from this season, get it while they can. Sure, you can chance it on Bright Dust, but the later you wait, the more of a chance that you just missed out on it entirely. Getting into everything else, on the front page, we have lots of dark-looking colors. Tide Smoke, which is one of those ones that just gives you a nice evil look, because obviously you look quite smoky and ashen, with a nice red glow to everything. Similar so, we have Oiled Gunmetal, which instead of a green glow, or it has a green glow instead of a red one, with a nice shady oil look. But from that, you also have the Stasis Entrance, which is pretty much straight up you spawning out of your own ice crystals. And the Unloved to be Cherished, an ornament for the original Beloved, which, actually, I forget if that's what this is called, considering, oh no, Adored was the other one. But yes, Beloved, a classic sniper rifle, re-brought to us back in Season of the Haunted. Nifty in its perks, but I think Adored is still the preferred one above them. We also have the Unchained emote from Season of the Hunt, which is basically just breaking out of stasis crystals in a very comical way. From the main store, for our flares in transmats and shaders, we have Deep Sea Jaunt, which is very much appropriate in its name. It looks very oceanic with the studded metal look, but weird color combination. You also have Golden Age Blind, similarly so, a unique and callous looking shader set that looks pretty good, but it's hard to tell whether or not it fits on anything specifically. You also have Royal Treatment from Season of the Risen, which almost similarly so. Looks real callous, but at the same time, it doesn't look that good. And from there, you also have Irradiant Carite, something like that, which is a very bright, shiny, and textured one where your entire Guardian looks crystallized in glass. Very bright glass at that. From there, you have Transmats and the Guiding Light from Black Armory, which is one of the first of those blue rarity shaders that I believe was just recolored and retooled. You also have Blind Clutch, which is you spawning out of Eris's Ahamkara Shard. And Resurrected Shadow, which if I recall is either Caretaker or Rhulk or both. I entirely forget sometimes. And you also have the Take Out the Trash emote in the first of our big ticket items, which is missing its textures. Oh, there it goes. But if you're ever feeling like you're just giving up or you're the struggle of the team, just go ahead and put yourself in the garbage. From there, you also have the Starcrossed Mark, which I shall reiterate is the mark for all classes from this set. You'll have a class item. Basically, if you want to claim it, I would go ahead and do it now because it is going through the full armor rotation. If you don't, you're going to be forced to pay silver for the rest of it. If you just want to save the hassle, go ahead and get that now. Then we also have the Multiband Shell, which is from Season 11, which is basically just a communications ghost if you ever want to, have a good essence of communication. And you also have Refashioned Shapes, which is a classic ship from a few seasons prior. I believe, no, this one came with Shadowkeep, but this was a ship. Imagine all of the red parts. Imagine that was disappeared. This is an add-on ship. It still looks pretty dang nifty, but it was a bit of a reshaped, retooled. And we also have Wanderer's Wagon, which, from the name, should emphasize what it's meant for. I guess it's just supposed to be an ATV / just roaming thing or drifter thing. And a big ticket item, the Vanguard Dare, which is a Cade iconic look for Ace of Spades. If you ever wanted the Ace of Spades to rep Cade's look or color scheme more readily, now you can do that. But again, this is just a color scheme shape that doesn't really change the shape of the gun itself. And from there, we also have the Altogether Now Bungie emote Ghost Projection, which, as always, Ghost Projection is probably the least worth it thing. And from that point, I'm just going to blitz to Banshee. And once again, I'm trying to keep things more streamlined and at least visually entertaining, not to mention reworking my music, so hopefully it's a little bit more entertaining on that note. I hope you enjoy. From there, with Banshee, he has something I've seen a lot, Whispering Slab, lightweight kinetic bow. While quite outdated, it still kind of holds its own in the Crucible mostly, but that's pretty much the last place it holds anywhere. We also have Timeline's Vertex, similarly so. It is a adaptive, so it's kind of in the mid-range. Unfortunately, not min-maxed in any direction. It kind of suffers. But weird perks, and again, even more outdated than Whispering Slab here. Vulpecula, which is almost on the verge of greatness, a stasis hand cannon, the first of its kind of stasis weapons, but at the same time, it is old, not craftable, still rocking some quite outdated perks. Really wishing for a refresh or just a crafted version of some of these. And speaking of crafted, we have Disparity, a aggressive burst pulse rifle, which is pretty nifty, I'm not going to lie. Before Blast Furnace returned, I would have recommended this. But honestly, nowadays, if you were looking for aggressive frame in the kinetic slot, I would recommend just getting Blast Furnace. The only reason to get otherwise is if you wanted just this one for its looks or wanted it for Headstone. Speaking of which, with Palmyra B, a rocket launcher that is craftable and did have a nifty set of perks in comparative, but at the same time, while craftable, there are other ones that are hitting way harder. Apex Predator is still pretty much the go-to for rocket launchers and damage, so I would recommend that before that. And lastly, wrapping it up with a few shaders in the form of Satsuo Tribe, a very iconic look from the Black Armory. Very clean set. Of course, it is slightly live, like most of the Radiance effects on the Brave armor set, or what's the word? The Brave weapon set, excuse me. But then we also have Flowers of Io, which, as the name suggests, gives you a very light yellow Io look. As well, New Monarchy Diamonds, one of the better looking blue rarity shaders, but at the same time, it's a bit dark and dull shiny, if that phrase makes sense in people's heads. But from that point, that has been the reset update. Again, I know in my last few videos, my audio has been weird. I have turned off the voice filter that I would usually run it through. I know you guys don't see it, but I use it for shenanigans with my crew. Hopefully, I can sort out what is going on with that, but otherwise, I just need to default to a straight-up microphone so it sounds a bit better. With that, I appreciate if you've been holding out. My name is MadScorpyon. I thank you for watching.